Everyone can see this. Again, I'm Theo Carruthers, Coordinator for Career Services and Alumni Relations. And like I said in the first session, I typically tell a joke about now, but I don't think jokes go over too well in a virtual session. So fortunately for you guys, I'll save that. We can get right into the meat and the potatoes. So Brian and I have a saying here in the Office of Career Services that graduation begins today. It does not begin when you are a second year and you are preparing for graduation or to walk across stage. It does not begin after your first real internship, but rather it starts the moment you become admitted, because everything that you do from that moment on prioritizes this professional development and working with our office in tandem as a partnership so that we are both working together to ensure that you develop as much as you can professionally. And we're working together so that all the things that you have planned to accomplish post-graduation come true. We do that in a myriad of different ways. And the bulk of that is career counseling and advising. And that is essentially the bulk of what Brian and I do. He mentioned that he takes the lead with the graduate students. I take the lead with the undergraduate students. But at the end of the day, if you ever see Brian and I, or when you come to see Brian and I, the focus will be on clarifying your professional goals. Brian and I do not come in with a set agenda of, if you want to be successful, you must accomplish A, B, C, D. Rather, we like to listen to students. We like to say that we do the majority of the listening and you guys do the majority of the talking. And that happens every session, because the more we learn about you, the easier it is for us to give you tailored advice, tailored information, so that we're not giving you cookie cutter approaches to the way that we do things. And this encompasses many things, from internship leads. Maybe you haven't written a cover letter in a while, or you're a bit unsure of what a public policy cover letter looks like. Maybe you want to get your resume looked at and get some critiques on that, whether that's interview preparation or creating and maintaining a professional portfolio for yourself, the job search, the coveted networking assistance, whether that's internship guidance, salary negotiation guidance, or even just regular drop-in hours. Brian and I recently, about a year ago, adopted a new appointment system. It's called Calendly. And the beauty of Calendly is you never have to email us in order to book an appointment, as long as you have the link. And as long as that link is active, which it is, you can find an appointment slot for a time that works for you, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's 60 minutes, and you fill out the information requested, whether that's name, what do you plan to talk about, et cetera. And it's as easy as that to book an appointment. More traditionally, throughout the course of the semester, before COVID took us off campus, on Wednesdays, I would hold late night advising sessions for students, both undergraduate and graduate students. And the purpose of the late night advising hours were to accommodate the very ambitious student who was maybe working full-time, going to school full-time, has an internship full-time, and has a social life full-time, and cannot squeeze in a career service appointment between 9 and 5. And so from 4 to 7 on Wednesdays, I would hold my traditionally would hold my late night advising hours, and it was pretty popular. I used to get a good amount of students from both the undergraduate and the graduate level. So as the semester continues to roll on, and as we hope to see you in the fall semester, then I anticipate that you all will interact with us quite frequently, especially during late night advising hours. Aside from the workshops, aside from the individual career counseling advising, we also do workshops, and workshops are essentially larger group settings of what we would cover in an individual appointment for an individual advising appointment. And this covers everything from UMD policy jobs, which I'll talk about later, navigating your online professional image and clarifying what that looks like, how to build a cover letter, how to build a great public policy resume, various networking strategies. Brian does a wonderful session on employed by graduation. We do salary negotiation guidance. We do a lot of work with putting your personality to work, whether that is through the MBTI or with Clifton Strengths. Brian and I both do our best to make sure that students have all the resources that they can, so that they can maximize their brand and they can be as effective as they can be in their professional world, in their professional development. We do student and alumni internship panels and a session on kickstarting your job and your internship search. Outside of these, I'm going to start to talk about the flagship programs that we offer in the School of Public Policy. Or in the Office of Career Services, you will see that we do quite a bit for such a small team. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because we're going to go through each and every one of these. I probably will start with the employer information session though, because I don't think that's a slide that's on here. But employer information sessions, for lack of a better way of keeping it concise, is a way for the School of Public Policy and Brian and I's office to invite employers to come to the School of Public Policy to meet with students in group sessions, and they are essentially pitching their organization. They want you to come to apply for an internship. Maybe they want you to apply for full-time job postings, or they just want to share more information about who they are, what they do, how it relates to policy, and how they can get your foot in the door. They're widely successful, and these happen most likely on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays throughout the semester. And a few of the other flagship programs we have are pretty much Friday only. But we do our best to make sure that we never bother you on a Monday so that you have no excuse on why you don't interact with us. But let's dive right in and talk about UMD policy jobs. So I like to tell students to imagine a world where there is a job database, where there's a database where you have access to employer contact information. You have access to full-time jobs, part-time jobs, full-time internships, part-time internships, fellowships, and all of these various opportunities are policy relevant. They're all policy related and have policy infused in them. And they cut across sectors, whether you want to do public sector at the federal level or you want to do public sector, state and local. Maybe you're interested in the private sector, maybe you're interested in nonprofits, whatever you're interested in, that wonderful resource exists. And the best part about it is marketed exclusively and only to School of Public Policy students. We have some interesting aspects of that curate jobs from similar institutions. So we're not just curating jobs that are in the DC metropolitan area, but they're pretty expansive. You know, they run up and down the Eastern Seaboard, but the vast majority of positions that you will see come from the DC metropolitan area. And though the university has their own separate database called Careers for Terps, about 10, 12, maybe 15% max of the information you'll see in that Careers for Terps database will be relevant for policy students. But 100% of the jobs that you see in UMD policy jobs will be relevant. And I like to joke with students and say that you'll never see an Abercrombie and Fitch or McDonald's posting. These are all certified and vetted jobs and internships and fellowships that get our students jobs where our students have worked previously. And career treks are another wonderful resource that we have. And these are sponsored site visits to organizations in the DC metropolitan area with the goal simply of connecting students with policy professionals. And typically we find out about these employers for career treks through our alumni, through employers who would like to host us for a day for a site visit. Friends of the school, faculty have wonderful connections since we employ a great amount of scholar practitioners and they have contacts in the field. And the School of Public Policy in the Office of Career Services sponsor these site visits. So we will provide Metro cards. I believe the vast majority, 90% plus of the career treks that we embark upon are Metro accessible. And we typically go as a group. Some of them have smaller requirements, restrictions. Some of them are quite large, such as the World Bank. You know, I believe we took 50 students the last time we went to the World Bank, which is by far the biggest number we've ever taken. And this typically encompasses a facility tour. You get a presentation from the organization, which is on par with an employer information session, and how their work relates to public policy, what hiring looks like and what a typical timeline would look like. And think of it as a way to get insider information into what's possible, where you can work, and why employers are interested in you. And we've done dozens and dozens of career treks over the years. But most recently, we have gone to the Office of the Inspector General with Amtrak, Booz Allen Hamilton, the consulting firm, Guidehouse, which is the consulting side of PricewaterhouseCoopers, the World Bank, as I mentioned earlier, or the World Bank Group. Most recently, we went to C2ES in Arlington, which is a Center for Climate and Energy Solutions, which was a connection by one of our alums, and Annapolis City Government. We make it a point to try to get to Annapolis every academic year, if not every semester, because of the wonderful things that are going on, both in downtown Annapolis and how that relates to what we do in College Park. And experts in residence, we can think of as the actual flip side to what a career trek is. So a career trek, we sponsor you to get out of the four walls that is College Park, and we take you to the employer. With an experts in residence, we bring the employer to you. And typically the career trek or an experts in residence will happen on select Fridays throughout the academic year. And these experts come from all sectors, and they come to visit the School of Public Policy simply to meet with students. They want to have informational interviews. They want to pick your brain just as much as you want to pick their brain. Because at the end of the day, it's a mutually beneficial partnership that students get a leg up with the employers to know, great, this is what you're looking for. Should my resume look more like this? Should my resume look like this? What is the typical timeline? And especially if it's an alumnus or an alumni that has come back, they say, great, this class was extremely beneficial. I recommend you take this class so you can you can brush up on a few data skills or a few presentation skills or the ability to write concisely and to work with others, work individually. Tell the dog I said hello. And these individuals come from wonderful, wonderful institutions, and they offer input on resumes. They offer input on cover letters, job search techniques, and they've come from the federal government, from state government, whether that's the Government Accountability Office with the feds, the DC Office of the State Superintendent of Education's director came and spoke with our students directly, Annapolis City Government, the Environmental Defense Fund, the State Department. And one of my favorite success stories was on our one of our career treks. I believe it was in the fall. We went to Booz Allen Hamilton, and the young lady who was hired at Booz Allen Hamilton said that she went to an experts in residence with a consultant from Booz Allen Hamilton, and she was offered a job on the spot in the School of Public Policy while doing an informational interview, which shows the wonderful benefit of taking advantage of the wonderful resources that we have, but they cannot be beneficial if you do not take advantage of them. So please don't let me preach to the choir too much longer. And this will likely be my last slide before I pass it to Brian to make sure that he has his time to speak. Career Networking Nights is a bit different than it used to be. Previously, we would rent out this wonderfully huge room in the National Press Club in downtown DC. It was a very fun event. We would have undergraduate students and graduate students. We'd have faculty, we would have staff, alumni, employers, friends of the school. And they would all be in this really big room, and there was food, and there was drinks, and there was a lot more food, and then a lot more food, and it was a wonderful event. But as Brian likes to say, it felt very much like a high school dance in the sense that the alumni were in that corner, faculty and staff maybe mingled on that side. Students were closer to the door, and only the hungry would go and get food. And so rather than keeping that same model, that same approach, Brian and I made the decision to do more of a targeted approach with the networking events so that you still get the chance to network with these industry employers and these industry experts. But rather than having a couple hundred people in a room, you'll have an individual event for those who are interested in state and local government. We had one in Annapolis early February that was widely successful. We had employers, we had alumni, current students who were interning in Annapolis, those who were interested in city and state government, delegates, elected officials, faculty and staff all came out, and we had a wonderful time. There were wonderful crab cakes. I'm sorry you missed out on it. And it was a great time to network, to get to know different industry experts, some politicians that some students may want to work for. And that's just one of the many ways that our students get engaged. Over the summer, we typically have our federal government appreciation event, which is a networking event for those alum and those current students who are either interning or working for the federal government. And in the upcoming fall, you will likely see an event for nonprofit and or private sector, so that those students who are interested in these vast opportunities get the opportunity to have a more intimate setting to network with these individuals, ask some of the tougher questions, and be able to work a room and practice the networking techniques that we either go over in our office or some variation of the two. So I know I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to pass things along to Brian so that he can continue to keep the ball rolling.
Thank you. So one of the other things that we like to talk to our students about, and one of the things that we're really proud about, is that we offer an internship program that basically allows students the freedom to accept unpaid internships without having to choose whether or not they pay their rent or put groceries on the table. This fund exists to support experiential learning opportunities in nonprofit, community-based, and government organizations, and it is available year-round to students, spring, summer, and fall. We do limit participation in the program to one time throughout the course of your graduate education or your undergraduate education, but over the years, over 400 students have participated in this program and have really built their resume in a way that has complemented the classroom education that they're getting through their policy courses and has led to a lot of networking opportunities. Many students, as you can also imagine, use this as a way to build their networking, to build their networks more generally, and to make connections with employers that impact their ability to get a full-time job after graduation. So that is also something to definitely take note of and to take advantage of if you decide to come to Maryland for your program. One of Theo's main responsibilities, so it's kind of ironic that I'm actually talking about this now, but it was something that started a few years ago when Theo was not around and it was just me, is our Maryland Mentor Program. And as you've noticed with a lot of our slides that we've gone through thus far, including counseling, programming, experts in residence, and career treks, and the networking night, there's one common thread through all of that, and that is the concept of networking. One of the things that we believe wholeheartedly in is that you can do a lot in terms of your own internship and job search, but if you don't have a team of people helping you, if you don't have people who are out there keeping their eyes open for opportunities, or you are feeling like you're moving into a new field that you don't really know who the players are or who some of the key people are that you should be talking to, this program is for you. Theo coordinates a one-on-one match between you and basically friends of the school out in the community. These are alumni, sometimes they're employers, they might be staff at the school who have had long careers as lobbyists in DC. There's a lot of people that come into our mentor pool that we match with students who are interested in receiving sound counsel and advice in this one-on-one relationship throughout the course of an academic year. The mentors that we have in the program range it's a wide range of positions that they come from, and the relationship takes off from the initial match in a way that you and your mentor define. It can include emails, it can include meetups for coffee, it might include some web conferencing given the times that we're in right now. But it is an important program that we like to offer to make sure that our students feel well equipped to approach their internships and job searches with as many tools as possible at their disposal. I'm not sure how many of you are interested in federal government service, but I do like to talk about the PMF program. For those of you who have not heard, the Presidential Management Fellows Program, for those that are interested in working for the federal government, is sort of the granddaddy of all federal employment programs. It's been around for the longest period of time. It is really geared towards figuring out within all of our programs who's the cream of the crop suited for federal leadership and management positions across the government. There's a long application process. There's a couple of hurdles you need to jump through, but the point that I want you to make is that the School of Public Policy is well positioned to help you feel supported in trying to gain a PMF position with the government. We have exceptional acceptance statistics each year in terms of the numbers of students that get into the PMF program. In fact, this past year on the University of Maryland campus, there were 8 total finalists across the entire campus. 6 of those students came from the School of Public Policy, and we've already implemented a couple of steps to help train the search process that's involved. And it's a really great opportunity for, I got an internet connection is unstable. Can you still hear me? Do I get a thumbs up for anybody? Good, okay. It's a really great program for you to think about if the federal government is on your target list for where you're working after you're done. And for statistically, I'm betting that's about half of you as far as our typical applicant pools are concerned. So note that that is there, and that our students who become finalists through the program always get jobs. It's one point you should investigate with other schools too. We don't have finalists that don't get actual fellowships within the federal government. So note that that is something that we have well under control as part of the School of Public Policy. So how do we keep you informed about all this stuff? That might be a good question. We try not to pepper you too many emails. Theo is also in charge of a Career Connections newsletter that comes out weekly to students. It's going to be your one-stop shop for tips for professional development, events in DC and around the surrounding area. You're going to have login information for various web-based services that we subscribe to for your benefit to find jobs and internships. We have a special section for jobs that are sent to us by alumni, because oftentimes those are plentiful and those are places where you have an inside track to a position. The alum often offer themselves as a resource for students that are thinking about applying, and or somebody who can help expedite your application through the online portal to a place where it doesn't just seem like you're dumping it into a black hole, but you're actually having people evaluate it on the other side. This is a resource that used to be unwieldy long, and Theo's done a great job of sort of condensing it and making it seem much more visually appealing and something you could look forward to on a weekly basis to keep updated on what's going on from the career services world. As a graduate student, or even as an undergraduate student too, I think our students often say that they feel bombarded with information, and especially with your coursework, it's easy sometimes to lose sight of the professional development side of your degree. And the newsletter is a great way to kind of have a constant reminder that we are here and the services that we provide are for your benefit and that you need to take advantage of them. We've mentioned alumni on a number of occasions, and I'm very proud of the fact that our alumni for the School of Public Policy remain very, very engaged with the lives of our students. They are involved with our Career Tracks program. They are experts that we bring to campus. They are in Theo's mentor program. They provide jobs, as I just said to you before. And we've also developed a LinkedIn presence for them to sort of center around that professional development aspect that allows you to feel connected to them and to the work that they're doing. They don't graduate taking jobs outside of the policy world. They graduate doing the work that you want to do one day, and as being as connected as possible to them throughout the course of your 2 years is a really important aspect of your degree program. And so when you come to orientation as a new student, we get you to join our alumni group as a current student. There are other schools out there that make you wait to be an alum to join a group like that, but my philosophy is that you need to learn how to network with these folks and be a part of the larger community of the school right away. And we really do push your involvement with them through LinkedIn and other means right from the get-go. All right, so that brings us to the end of Theo's and my part of this presentation. And I do have one question that's already come in that I'll read out and then go ahead and answer for the benefit of the group. That first question is, as far as internships and jobs for students are concerned, while they're still in school, does SPP have connections in Baltimore and Annapolis, or are most connections in DC? That's a great question. And I'll answer that, but also be a little bit more broadly based than just Baltimore and Annapolis. So given our location, 8 miles from the White House, inside the Beltway, as you can imagine, a lot of students choose to come to the school because of our close proximity to DC and the policy and international affairs world that is what I consider the capital of the policy and international affairs world. So the lion's share of the opportunities that we receive are for the DC area. And I don't just mean the federal government. I mean nonprofit world, think tanks, private sector, research organizations, professional associations, foundations, et cetera, et cetera. But as you know, we also have a close proximity to Baltimore and Annapolis and have a very, very, very close relationship with state and local government leaders on a number of levels. So we will consistently place students in internships in Baltimore and in Annapolis, and have worked very hard, especially over the past 4 or 5 years, to firm up those relationships with special agreements with, for example, the Department of Legislative Services in Annapolis, the Maryland Municipal League that focuses on municipalities outside of Baltimore and Annapolis, et cetera, et cetera. So rest assured that they are also on our radar and are aware of our presence, and we expend a great deal of energy to make sure that those connections continue to be strong. I will expand my answer just a little bit to also say that we receive opportunities from around the country and promote those just as much as we do opportunities locally. Students are not as interested in going to Seattle or to Chicago as they are staying in DC, but those positions are out there. And when Theo and I are not able to provide as many opportunities in different geographic locations, we have agreements of reciprocity with other schools across the United States, where I will pick up the phone and I will call my counterpart at the Evans School in Seattle and say, hey, I've got students interested in working in Seattle. So what is your, I'm not as familiar with the employment landscape out there. Would you mind working with them and helping them get access to a job database or to your services as it relates to the Seattle area? They inevitably say yes, and I end up helping one of their students who's interested in coming to DC. So there is a very collegial agreement that we have amongst programs out there that will help you no matter where your location. But if you are firmly interested in DC, you're firmly interested in Maryland, we are the experts and we have the connections to help make you successful. That's the only question I have. You got any other questions that have popped up?
Theo, if you want to answer the one that I sent you, that would be great.
Just a second. Let's see. How many graduates go to work in public service compared to the private sector? Okay, well, this is great free marketing. So every year we put out a career service and employment brochure pamphlet about where our graduates go. And typically on average, so I'll just speak about last year in particular, and then we'll talk about private sector. We'll talk about that question first. So last year, roughly about 35%, this number's a little higher now, anywhere from 35 to 40% of our graduates went to the feds, and another 10 or 12% went state and local, whereas about 17 to 20%, which is the vast majority of where our graduates land, went to the private sector. The other big lion's share would be nonprofit, but you didn't ask, but you got it anyway. And of those who end up in public, how many? Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Well, I answered all the questions. I hope that was helpful. And if you would like to see a breakdown of what this looks like, this is on our website, and it comes with all the internship employers for last year, as well as the full-time job offers that we received. And it's a nice pie breakdown of what's going on. That's on our website, spp.umd.edu under Career Connections, if that is at all of interest to you.
I'll go ahead and add just a little bit here too. When we look at statistics year to year, there are typically external factors that affect every year. It can be a recession, it could be a coronavirus, it could be 9/11. I've been at the school for a while and I've seen a lot of fluctuation, but what hasn't really changed is the overall percentage breakdown of where our students go. Typically 1 out of every 2 heads to the public sector, and that includes federal, state, and local numbers, okay? Typically every year we have about 20 to 22, 23% private sector, 20 to 23% nonprofit, and the remainder to international orgs, onto PhD or further education, or some other kind of multilateral. So that's how it typically breaks down, regardless of what any of those external factors may be. Okay, a couple of other questions here. Somebody asked, what semesters do most students apply for this? And what are the qualifications to apply? What is the application like? I'm assuming that question means what semester do they apply for the SPP Internship Program. If I'm incorrect, somebody please send a text or a note to let me know. Typically, most students will apply for the summer between their 2 years. But as most of you should know, our students, the vast majority of our students do more than one internship during the course of their program. And so they can apply during fall or spring. I would say that you have 5 windows of opportunity to apply for the SPP Internship Program. Spring and fall of your first year, summer in between, and spring and fall of your second year. The way I like to work with students is that if you take off the fall of your first year where you're kind of getting acclimated to College Park, to your graduate program. You're maybe figuring out exactly where you want to go. Maybe we take that off for consideration. And maybe we take off the final semester too, where you might be focusing more directly on your job applications and wrapping up your degree program. That pretty much leaves the spring of your first year, summer in between, and the fall of your second year as 3 prime locations for you to think about applying for internship programs. The application's actually online. It's pretty simple. You can check it out at the Public Policy Career Services page after we're done here. It requires a short essay, resume. We do require a GPA that is not too high of a bar to meet, but we want to make sure you're focusing on your academics as well. And an employer agreement that you sign to make sure that you are not being hired as vice president of copying, but that you're actually doing strong work that allows you to apply your policy skills in the workspace and gain competencies and qualifications that will help you get a job and help you develop further as a professional in the future. So we look forward to supporting you in those endeavors. Go ahead, Theo, you were going to add something to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, if I can add, like I said, I'm a proud alum of the School of Public Policy, and my first internship was actually an unpaid internship. Yuck. But I was fortunate enough to be awarded some funding from the SPP Internship Program, and I interned with National Defense University's College of Information and Cyberspace, and it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And the best part about the internship wasn't the commute. It wasn't the information that I learned, but it was the fact that should you all choose to join us in the fall, once you become a coveted second year and you're approaching graduation, you have something called Project Course, and you have to have a real world client to solve a real world problem. And I was able to work with my internship employer in the same department, and it was very seamless, and it was very nice, and it was very convenient, and it would not have been possible if not for the wonderful people in career services like the Brian Kempton.
Thank you, Theo. I have another question coming here. Are there professional development opportunities, i.e. seminars, separate from internships, in addition to the networking events mentioned? Thank you. Absolutely. There are seemingly an unlimited amount of professional development opportunities, panels, seminars, events that you can access as part of the school. Our research centers, for example, bring in a wide variety of speakers each year. If COVID-19 hadn't come, we were actually gearing up for a presentation from Assistant Secretary of State Ellen McCarthy, coming in and talking about the importance of intelligence in security and decision-making these days. It was a perfect example of something that was just done between us, the Career Services Office, and Center for International Security Studies at Maryland on campus within the school that was going to provide, exactly what you're talking about, a professional seminar that allows you to develop really high-level networking opportunities for yourself. Some of the professional associations that we are a part of, NASPA and APSIA, that focus on domestic policy and international policy, offer events and seminars as well that happen throughout the year. We, through our Career Connections newsletter, are constantly getting notifications of new events and new things that think tanks and others are putting on downtown that they're very interested in having students attend. And it is a quick metro ride or a short Uber to get down to those events. And Theo and I, and also all of our faculty and our dean, are very, very, very much encouraging for students to get out of the building and to experience all that DC has to offer along these lines. That is absolutely something that you can expect to be an important part of your program.
Feel free to continue sending questions. I think so far we have been able to answer a few questions, all the questions. I do have another one coming in. What is the percentage of SPP graduates that have a job at graduation?
Sure, I can handle that. Typically, in May, And I'm glad that you asked that question in the way that you did. How do we measure it may? As you're evaluating other schools, I encourage you to ask that question of everybody, because I think what you'll find is that not many schools measure themselves at graduation. If you note employment statistics, oftentimes it's 3, 6, 9, 12 months after you get your diploma. And if I'm you, I don't want to wait 3, 6, 9, 12 months after I get my diploma to be finding a job or to be able to talk about having a job. So we pride ourselves at Maryland on measuring ourselves at graduation. And within a couple percentage points, we're usually about 70% at graduation. Okay, and that is extremely high. And we're very proud of that. And I think it's in large part due to the caliber of student that we attract to Maryland. It's due to the wonderful faculty that we have that also understand the value of you as a student that's going to be impacting this world as a policy professional one day, and the connections that they help you make. I think it is also due to a lot of the work that we've talked about here. And it's something that we pride ourselves on. 3 months after that, we are usually at about 90%, just maybe, if not just under, right at 90%. That's by the end of the summer. If you're doing the math on 3 months out, we do measure then as well. And we measure at 6 months afterwards also. At 6 months after, we're usually about 96, 98%. And the students are still looking 6 months after, typically have additional challenges that they're working through. That could be a variety of things. It could be they're waiting for a security clearance to come through. It could be that they're moving to another part of the country with their spouse and they've sort of put off their job search. It's rarely, if ever, a student is still waiting 6 months after graduation to find a job. Usually there are extenuating circumstances that make that happen. So I hope that answers your question. And to be clear too, my expectation that is even now with COVID-19 that the school is able to maintain those statistics. I just had a conference call with Theo earlier today where I told him about a couple of our second-year students who received offers for employment within the past couple of days. So I have every expectation that once everybody acclimates to sort of the new normal, that employers will figure out how they're going to continue forward with their hiring. They're going to figure out how they fill positions of need, and things will continue on in admittedly a new format, but in a way that still allows